I'm standing on the steps of the Henry Rhodes cabin, built in the early 1800s, possibly even 1790s. It was moved to Hart Square in 1998 and probably located 10 to 12 miles southeast of Hart Square. I do all the rock work on the chimneys through the entire village. This is brick and massive brick chimneys on each side. The one on the side to the left here has two fireplaces that are at angles to the two bedrooms and then one upstairs. A friend of mine, an engineer and builder, said that it would probably cost me $10,000 to $15,000 to build these two chimneys. Well, I contacted two brick masons, and back then, when we moved it, $15 an hour was a lot of money, and I told them I'd pay them $15 cash an hour to build the two chimneys. They didn't look at it, didn't come over and look at it, so when they arrived, Boris, who lived on my place and helped me, we had all the bricks out, the cement was mixed, the scaffolding was there, and when they'd leave around 3:34, they were there at 7 o'clock the next morning. Well, at 6 o'clock, we were out here, we had the scaffolding moved all the way up, the cement was on it, and bricks were as fast as they could lay them, and when they left a lot of times at 3:34, I can lay brick in once it's already started, so we might be up another 3 or 4 feet. Instead of $15,000, it was like $1,500, which was great in terms of having somebody that knows how to lay brick, because there's no way I could have ever laid these two chimneys. I did the chimney in the kitchen, that little small one out of brick, but not these massive chimneys. Since the house is near the church, we use this as a parsonage. But as you come into the front door on the left wall, there is an early melodeon. A melodeon is an early keyboard instrument. You'll see to the left of the front door a southern Mami's bench. This actually was where a mother could sit on one end and do her sewing or knitting and whatever other chores she needed to, while the child would be beside her, being rocked and not falling off the bench. It's made of southern heart pine and dates into the 1800s. Other interesting feature here are the mantelpieces, and if you carefully notice them, all three have the curved part at the top of the mantel, which I was able to preserve and place in all three places. We have a typical cooking pots, hand-forged andirons, and a set of bellows, and a couple of nice pieces of Catawba Valley pottery beside the fireplace. The larger one is Kim Ellington's piece that was fired here at our festival. The clay used to make it was likely found at the original Rhodes House clay dig site. Most of the potters of that time found and got their clay from this particular site. Over the fireplace we have the mirror I found at a flea market and paid $20 for. A lot of people ask me, what did you put a mirror with a crack on it? But it fits this particular time period, and it's the right size for the right spot. Another neat thing is this 18th century Pennsylvania drop spindle, and you use it to wind yarn. You can see during our festival the ladies where they drop the spindle, spin it, and it winds the yarn to be stored. Another interesting piece is also used for weaving. It's called a table or lap loom. The big one here is actually a table loom. You sit in a chair and pull this to you to work your yarn. The smaller ones like this are called lap looms. There on the floor is an early basket, cradle, and blanket. Moving past the fireplace, we have an early secretary with a complete set of Bancroft books. A yarn winder is in the corner. If you make so many turns, it'll make a click, and that's where the term "pop goes the weasel" comes from. We also have a primitive early 1800 grandfather clock on the wall. There's a demi-loom table with an early Bible by the staircase. Moving into the bedrooms is a set of matching fireplaces and mantels. In the left bedroom is an IHS painted chest, which has a religious symbol, and it goes along with this cabin used as a parsonage. The most interesting piece in the entire house is this little one-armed chair. It's a good question that I always ask my visitors if they can tell me why it only has one arm. Well, I was up in Pennsylvania and saw it, and I'd only seen a couple, mostly in museums. It's a nursing rocker. When I went to buy it, I asked the dealer how much he wanted for it, and he said $35. Obviously, he didn't really know what it was, so I told him the maker must have only made one arm, and why didn't he make the other? He said, well, give me $25, which I gladly did, and now it sits in the Rhodes House. We have a rope bed with a washstand and pitcher. Some early clothes hanging on the wall, and an early rocking crib. As we enter the right bedroom, the bench against the wall is called a prie-dieu in French. It's actually used for praying. You'll note the Bible on it. At the foot of the bed, you'll see a rope key for tightening ropes. This is where you hear the saying, "Sleep tight so the bed bugs don't bite." There's also a hand-carved wooden feather knife used to smooth out the feather tick and the bed covering. Usually the beds would have a straw tick on bottom and a feather tick on top, so you'd use this to smooth out the top feather tick. Here we have another matching fireplace and mantel. In the corner is a 2/3 chest of drawers. As we enter the dining room, we have an early 12-pane step-back cupboard with its early china. On the opposite corner is a 16-pane corner cupboard with early blue and white china. A formally set table with fine china, crystal, and matching chairs is noted. Floor covering are frequently called oilcloth. Serving table behind the table itself, indicating this was a very affluent family. On the wall are some pewter spoons that were made here at Hart Square during our festival. A high chair also is noted by the window. Now here in the kitchen is a beautiful southern step-back cupboard, furnished. Notice the one-board door, and the stuff that you would have seen would have been canned goods, china, etc. Think about the 1800s. The more poor or primitive cabins and families would not have had these things, like lemons, for example. These represented a wealthy family. The kitchen table is 3 boards. It's a gate leg table. Boards are 1 boards for each leaf. Probably some of them go and extend to 24, 25 inches. You can lift up an end, or if you wanted to preserve space, you could drop both ends. Hanging on the wall, or frequently lying on the table, is an interesting apple peeler dating in the 1800s. You put an apple on it, turn the handle while holding a knife against the apple to peel it. On the table you see bread, vegetables, chicken. Interesting story about this chicken. I was in Las Vegas gambling and needed a money clip, and I went into a store to buy it, and here were these pieces of chicken at $5 a piece. I bought them all for $15. Look exactly like fried chicken. Put them in a grocery bag, and everybody would ask me, "What's in your grocery bag?" And I'd always say fried chicken. Here's a good early stove, and during the festival there'll be frying ham or rolling biscuits on the table. On the stove you see an early waffle iron, a kettle, and on top some early salt glazed china, an early pitcher. On the wall is a red double-handled dough roller. In the corner is a small table with a variety of several kitchen utensils and a kerosene lantern. Over the table by the window, you will see a coffee grinder. On the table, a dough bowl and several other cooking utensils. We have a wooden box in the corner. Not only did they have a nice kitchen, they had a pantry to store items in, which is located on the far wall, like canned goods, cooking items, etc. There's an herb grinder, broom, crocks covered with cheesecloth. The cabin itself is earlier than the kitchen. The cabin probably dates around 1820, and according to the history, the kitchen itself probably dates in the 1860s or 70s. Going upstairs, you have to be real careful. The stairs are extremely steep. As we enter the front bedroom, again the floor and walls and ceiling and paint are all original. You see the fireplace and the matching mantelpiece with the arches. Here in front of the fireplace is a tape loom. It was used to make small, unusual things like belts, sashes, etc. There's a clock, jar, corn shuck doll on the mantel. The rope bed at the back wall, as we come up the stairs, has a beautiful quilt, one of the best ones in the village, until a coon, or raccoon, found a home above in the ceiling and covered it with raccoon droppings. There's an early one-board child's table with small chairs and toys for children. Against the wall is a child's tin washstand, a beautiful early blanket chest with 2 drawers. There have been several children in this family, and like we've mentioned before, you didn't get a bath but every so often. And here's another bathtub with lye soap ready for use by taking the kettle downstairs, heating the water, and bringing it back up to bathe the children. One of the most unusual $5 finds from a flea market is a shoe holder on the front wall. It's made of flour sacks. Let's walk into the other bedroom at the back and notice the wide heart pine flooring. 2 rope beds, and in the corner is a clothes rack. Mama must have been pretty hefty, noticed by the size of the pantaloons. There's a beautiful cherry Sheraton type blanket chest. In between the beds is a 3-drawer chest with a wash pitcher and bowl, a lamp, and also a mustache shaving mug. In the back we have indoor plumbing, which actually, as we would say, chamber pots, or more slangly would have been called a thunder jug. On the floor is a child's cradle. And over in the corner again, one of my weaknesses is another corner cupboard. It has butterfly hinges, rose head nails in the back, so it dates into the 1700s. And another blanket chest is at the foot of the bed. Upstairs on the 3rd floor, there are 2 rope beds, a blanket chest, a spinning wheel. You also see a washstand with bowl and pitcher. But also you could use it if you needed an extra place for a few more people to sleep when they had company. Don't forget, heat rises, so in the summer it would have been extremely hot and uncomfortable in this 3rd floor.